Mr. Monahan here. This is Chapter 5B, Day 7 of Prob and Stats, Essential Outcome. We're going to talk about being able to predict which way the data is skewed and determine the appropriate measure of center. Quick thing, when we say measures of central tendency, what are we talking about? The measures of central tendency all start with M. We have mean, we have median. All right, so you're not seeing my calculator yet. There it is. Okay, so this is an old problem. We'll come back to standard deviation in a second. Okay, what we need to do is add up those 7 numbers and then divide by 7. So that's actually not so bad if you just use the Desmos calculator. I'm going to type in the fraction right away so I can just get some things in the top and then some things in the bottom. So, and we'll come back to this a few times. So the numbers that we're going to add up, the 7 numbers we're going to add up are 20 plus 21, plus 22, and then we're going to go all the way up to 26. Okay, we're going to divide that by 7. That's going to be our average. Okay, so our average is going to be 23. Okay, we'll go back and write that in a second. Okay, another thing they're going to ask for is standard deviation. So I'm just going to get that in here too. So we have 20. And then we're going to keep going up, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Okay, so that's going to be our standard deviation, our averages, as you can see. So back over here, our average ended up being 23. Okay, so we have an average of 23, and we found the standard deviation. Okay, that standard deviation, again, was the 2.16. So that's going to be this one right here. Okay, from Desmos. Okay, the M is median. We already found that one. Okay, 23. IQR is 25 minus 21. Q3 minus Q1. So the IQR is 4. Okay. What do you notice about the original data set? What I would look at is that these two things are exactly the same. Okay, the mean and the median equals the mean. Okay, so what's going on there? When we have a certain type of data, our median and mean are both very good at finding the middle. This is going to be called symmetric. Okay, this data is called symmetric. Okay, which is a word from last chapter. But symmetric data, our mean and median are going to be the same thing. Okay, are very, very close to the same thing. This is perfectly symmetrical data. Okay, now if we take the data set and put in a much larger number, so we have some outlier now, maybe it's an outlier, that's not what today is about, how do the answers change? So it's the same numbers, except for now we've added 34 to the end of the list. Okay, so it makes a change right away because we have a 20 as our minimum still, but now our maximum has gone up to be 34. Okay, our median has to change a little bit. So now there's 8 numbers, so the middle is between the 4th and the 5th. Excuse me. So that's going to be 23.5. Then we're going to have the Q1 would be halfway between 21 and 22, which is 21.5. And then the Q3 is going to be halfway between 25 and 26, so 25.5. Okay, so we're going to look at what changed, what didn't change. So our average, okay, we can go fix that in a second. Our median is 23.5. Our IQR is actually the same, 25.5 minus 21.5. That's still 4, just like it was last time. Let's go back to the calculator and put 34 into those answers. So if we can do that real quick. Okay, so if I go and I put a 34 at the end of this list, I just have to make sure that I remember to change something else. I got to make sure I remember to change this to an 8, because now there's 8 numbers. Okay, and then same thing down here. I need to first put a 34 at the end of that. Okay, so those are going to be those 2 numbers there. So our average is now 24.375, and our standard deviation is now 4.37. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, this was 4.37. Okay, and then, oh shoot, I already forgot what that was, what we said that was. That average, the average was 24.375. Okay, I'm not going to forget this time. So 24.375. Okay. All right, so what's different this time, okay, is now our average is now bigger than our median, okay? They were exactly the same, but when we put a high outlier in here, we skewed it, and we skewed it to the right, and now our mean moved to the right. Okay, the mean now has moved to the right. Okay, let's back to that same first example. Let's, instead of putting a high number in, let's put a low number in. So if we take the data set and put in a much smaller number, how do the answers change? Okay, so let's talk about that. So 5-number summary, now the minimum is 3, the maximum is back to being 26 again. Everything else is going to be what it was in the last one. Now there's 8 numbers, so we have 22.5 as a median. We have 20.5 as a Q1. We have 24.5. So slightly different, but we're going to see an IQR4 again. Let's go through these then. Okay, the median is 22.5. IQR is 24.5 minus 20.5, so it's 4 again. So something keeps happening with IQR and staying the same. Okay, now I need to take the 34 out of the calculator and put a 3 in there instead. So that's what I'm going to change for this one. Okay, so I'm going to take the 34 out and then just try to put a 3 in there instead. Okay, and then it's still going to be over 8 because there's 8 numbers again. So I'm going to take that 3, or 34, and make it a 3. So 20.5 and 7.35. Okay, 20.5 and 7.35. 20.5 and 7.35. Okay, now notice we put a number on the left, which is going to make it skewed left. Okay, everything's going to get skewed toward that low outlier there. Now there's a tail that way. And now our average is now smaller than our median. Okay, so the average keeps going toward whatever side we put a number on. Okay, and our standard deviation kind of keeps growing based on how big the outlier is. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, about shapes. So with that, if the data is symmetrical, okay, our graph is going to look like this. Okay, when we have symmetrical data, the graph's going to look like that. The mean and the median are going to be the same. Okay. If the data has a smaller outlier, which was our third one, the graph is going to be skewed left, and our graph is going to look like this. Okay. What's going to happen is our median might change just a little bit. Okay. But what happens with these graphs? So sorry, back up to this first one. This line right here would be where X bar and the median are. Okay, but now that we have a tail toward the left, the one that gets pulled toward the tail is the average. So now the average is going to be a little bit to the left. The median is going to be the one that's still kind of that true center. Okay, so what we end up having is the average getting pulled toward whichever way we're skewed. Okay. And then third one, if our data has a much larger outlier, our graph is skewed right, and our graph looks like this. Okay, now the outlier is high, so the average will be the farthest one to the right. The median will still be kind of that center one. Okay, so the average, or the mean, gets pulled towards the tail. Okay, that's another way to say it. Okay, the average gets pulled towards the tail. Okay, when you put a really high number in, it messes up your average. The average gets higher than really what the middle actually is. So that's when we start to actually have median be a better depiction of the center. Okay, and that's going to be kind of it for today. Okay, the homework is going to be, that page number I don't believe is right. Pages 12 and 13. Okay, 12 to 13. Okay, the test is on Tuesday this week, next week. Okay, so that test is coming up. This is the last lesson of Chapter 5B. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. Go do your homework.